happy Sunday. Welcome back to my channel. This week we have a really fun DIY that we're going to be doing, and this is going to add on to our Porch Decor series that we have going on for our fall decor. I'm really excited for this one. I think you guys are going to really like it. What we're going to be doing is making some pumpkins for our front porch, and these pumpkins are a little bit different from the traditional pumpkin that you would see at Halloween. These are going to be concrete pumpkins. So because these are not the bright orange, really, intense Halloween kind of vibe, I think that these are going to be pumpkins that we can leave out throughout the whole fall season and have them out through November as well, up until we change to our Christmas decorations. So I think these are going to be a really great addition to our porch decor and the series that we're doing, and kind of gradually building up the decor that we have out there for fall. I also think that they're going to be a kind of subtle statement piece that we can have out there in neutral colors, or you could paint them if you wanted to kind of have them be something that adds to the decor and gives a lot of texture and impact on the look without pulling too much focus like the traditional orange pumpkin would. And we will be adding regular pumpkins, like live pumpkins, later on down the road to our porch decor, but these will kind of be the staple piece that we build off of. So we're gonna make these pumpkins in two different sizes. Both will be concrete, and they're going to be two different styles as well. We're gonna have larger pumpkins that are more like the jack-o'-lantern look, and then smaller pumpkins that are more like a natural live pumpkin. To make these pumpkins, you really only need a few materials. The first thing that you're going to need is obviously some concrete, and with that you want to make sure that you get the quick dry concrete. I got the one called Quikrete, and that dries in just a few hours. Because these are going to be more dense and they're going to be thicker, it'll probably take overnight to dry, so I'm going to leave them to dry until tomorrow to work on them again. And then the next thing that you'll need is the plastic jack-o'-lantern style pumpkins that people use to trick-or-treat with, and that is what you'll need for our first larger pumpkin. The next thing that you'll need for the smaller pumpkins is a couple of pairs of pantyhose, and with these you can get any size that you want, but just keep in mind that the larger size you get of pantyhose, the bigger your pumpkin will be. And then you will also need some twine for this project, and you will need some sisal rope, which is like the cat scratch rope, and some cinnamon. So it's kind of a weird assortment of things that we're going to be using today, but you'll see it's all going to come together. You'll also need some Mod Podge for this, and other than that, that is everything that you'll need. Altogether, it's not a very expensive bunch of things. A lot of this stuff you could get at the dollar store, or discounted at Walmart or Amazon or something like that as the season moves forward. You probably even have a lot of this stuff already on hand. We're going to start off by mixing our concrete and starting to pour it so that it can dry overnight. If you're interested in making some concrete pumpkins with me, then stick around and we're going to get right into it. Okay, so we're outside on our back patio. This is a little bit of a messy project because we're working with concrete, so we're going to do it all out here on top of an old box that I have. We have all of our materials out. The concrete that we're going to be working with is this one right here. It is Quikrete, and this is the 10-pound bag. And so for this, all you have to do is add water and mix it up, and it's ready to go. We are going to add our concrete to our bucket, and then we're going to put some water in. For this bag, it says to add a pint, around 500 milliliters of water, to the entire bag to mix it. So we're going to do that, and we're going to kind of play it by ear because we want our concrete to be a little bit less runny. We want it to kind of hold together if you scooped it up. We might put a little bit less water than what it says and see how it goes. And then we also have our pumpkins. So with these, you really want to make sure that you get the pumpkins that have the indentations in them. So you can see here, like, it dips in. And that is really important because a lot of them now are just printed on the outside and they don't have the indentations. But you want this so that it makes an indentation in your concrete to get that jack-o'-lantern look. All right, so we have two of those. You do however many you want to do. And I'm going to cut off this little handle so that it doesn't leave a mark inside of our pumpkin. We also have some little jars or something like that. I have a jar and I also have a little Tupperware container that I'm going to be using. And these are optional, but this is so that we can put them inside of our pumpkin to make a place for a candle to go in. And then the other thing I have is our pantyhose. So these are my pantyhose that I got. They came in a pack of 2 on Amazon, and I got the size large/extra large. What we'll do with these is we will cut the legs off. That way we can fill the legs with concrete and twist them off to make our pumpkins. And the last thing that we have is something to mix the concrete with. I did not have a paint stick to mix with, so I just grabbed an old piece of scrap wood and we're gonna use that. All right, so we are going to pour our concrete in and start adding the water, and then we will go from there. Okay, so now that we have our concrete all mixed up, we're going to pour it into our first pumpkin. And you want to fill it most of the way to the top, but not completely, because we are going to put our jar in to make the space for the candle. So we don't want it to overflow. So I would put it about 3/4 of the way and test with your jar, and we can always add more. Okay, let's see how this pours. Okay, so for our second one, we're going to be doing our pumpkin with the pantyhose. So the first thing I want to do is cut the legs off, and I'm just going to cut them up high, and we can always tie off the excess, but you just need the legs. Okay. Toss that to my trash pile. So what we want to do for this is fill the leg up with cement, and then we'll tie it off and use our twine to create a pumpkin shape. Alright, so this is what we want. We want it to be mostly staying inside of here, and then we're going to tie off a knot on the top. Just like that. And you're going to kind of just move it around to get that pumpkin shape that you want. So it's like this. And the next thing that we're going to do is tie some of our twine onto here. Okay, so I have my first piece of twine underneath, and I've taken my knot right here and kind of pressed it into the center. And I want that because that's where our stem is going to go. So I'm going to tie this first piece of twine over it like this. And you want to tie it pretty tight so that it pulls in. So you may get some cement leaking out like this. That's totally fine. It's going to happen. You just don't want like a ton of cement coming out, just a little. So we're going to do it again from another direction. So I'll put a new piece of twine under here, and we will tie it off. So this is similar to like what we did with our pumpkin pillows a couple videos back, but instead of it being a pillow, it's a little cement blob. So we want to tie it off so it makes little indents, and you want them to be different sizes and lengths for different depths, so that it looks a little bit more natural. Alright, I'm going to do, I think, one more. Pull it really tight, and if it loosens up, tighten it a little bit more. Alright, so I think that should be pretty good. You can see where it's pulling in different amounts, and I think that'll give us more of a natural pumpkin shape. I might add one more over this to make it a little bit tighter, but otherwise it looks good. That is our first one with our stockings, and we're going to set that off to the side and we'll let that dry overnight. Alright guys, so we let our pumpkins dry overnight. Our little pumpkins right here seem to be pretty dry. Our bigger pumpkins still need a little bit more time. So it's been a little bit less than 24 hours at this point, so I'm going to let them sit overnight again just to really kind of finish solidifying and drying up because they are so much larger and denser. And then we will remove those pumpkins. Since these ones are ready, we're going to go ahead and open them up and start working with the stems on them. We're going to cut everything off and then we'll go from there. What our pumpkins are looking like at this point. We have 4 of them made, so we're going to test one and open it up and make sure that they're completely dry and see how they're looking. So all we have to do for this is just start cutting everything off. And some of them might be wedged in a little more, like that one. That just means we tied it really tight. And then we'll cut this off. And you just kind of have to get it loosened up in one spot and then the whole thing will sort of peel off. Ta-da! Here's our first pumpkin. So this is perfect. This is exactly what we want it to look like. This hole right here is great. This is where the stem's gonna go, so you really want to see that divot. If you don't have it, you can still work with it. This is just gonna create like a nice little nook for the stem to sit into to make it even more secure. This is pumpkin number 1, looking really good. We're gonna set that off to the side and we'll work with the stems in a little bit. So we're gonna move on to the next step with these pumpkins, our smaller stocking pumpkins. So I have all 4 of them out here. They're looking really good. I really love how they've turned out. So I want to add to these by making some stems that are kind of natural looking stems. I don't want to go the more traditional route of doing like a rope or a stick stem. We are going to use kind of a rope substitute. It's called sisal, and it's usually what you'll see for like cat scratches and cat toys and things like that. So it is rope-like, but it pulls apart differently, and that's what's going to really give us the texture that we're looking for. With this, we're going to do a few more things to it to kind of make it look really natural and make these pumpkins really, really special. For this next step, what you'll need is your pumpkins all dry, ready to go, and then we're going to put them on paper plates, each pumpkin on their own paper plate, because it's going to get a little bit messy and we want to just kind of have your surface protected. You'll also need some Mod Podge, your sisal rope, hot glue gun, some scissors and a paintbrush, and then some cinnamon. And this is going to be what really makes our stem come to life and look like a natural stem. And it's also going to make it smell really, really good like fall. So this is something that is going to have a big impact on our stems. So that is everything that we're going to need, and we are going to go through the steps of how to make our stems. First thing we're going to do, we're going to open our rope, sisal rope, and I'll link all of this for you guys so that you can find it really easily. Pretty much everything that I got off of Amazon, so it's super easy to order and for you all to get the same exact thing as what I'm using. That way you know it's gonna work, because there's nothing worse than ordering the same materials for a DIY and having a different result. So using the same stuff helps a lot. Oh, and I almost forgot, we also are going to use a little bit of moss for this. If you saw my last video where we did the Porch Decor part 1 where we did mushroom gardens, we used moss in that video, and this is what's left over from it. So we're just going to repurpose some of this moss to make our pumpkins have even more texture, to really draw your eye in and to make them really look special and contrasting to the cement. So this is going to be an important factor, but you do not need much of it at all. So we're going to take our sisal rope, and what you want to do is you want to cut a piece of rope about the length that you want your stem to be, a little bit longer. I'm going to cut mine a tiny bit longer, and we can always cut it down. So I'm cutting a piece this long. What is this? Maybe like, I don't know, 5-6 inches. And I'm going to cut a few of those. So I'm going to cut like 3. So here are my 3. And what I want to do is start to unravel the ends just a little bit. Kind of untwist them like this on both sides. We're going to take this first piece and glue it into this little divot that we created when we made our cement pumpkins. So we'll use our hot glue for that, and we're going to put a little dot in here and then stick our sisal rope on top. when you're putting your rope on, you want to kind of do it from different directions so that it's not all in one spot and your stem can kind of twist together and make a thicker stem. So I'm going to do this other one on the opposite side, and I'm going to put some of my hot glue on top of the stem that I already laid down to make it extra secure, and then we will plop this one on top like this. And I'm going to use my scissors to press it down so I don't burn myself. And then we'll do one more piece. So now what I want to do is start to kind of twist our sisal rope roughly together to make that stem-like shape. So we're going to make it kind of all go together, but roughly. I don't want it to be a perfect twist or anything like that. And I'm probably even going to unravel it some more so that it's even more messy and natural looking. I really want these to be contrasting to the cement pumpkins that we made, where these are very like industrial, have that man-made look because they are cement. I want the stems to look really natural and earthy and kind of play off of the vibe that we have going on with the pumpkins to really draw the eye in, because it's going to be such kind of a contradiction in a way. I think that'll make it even more interesting and really add to the look, especially when they're out next to like our live pumpkins that we're gonna get, because next weekend we're going to go to a pumpkin patch and pick out like some different colored pumpkins and do some stuff with that, with decorating. So I think these will mix in a really cool way. Okay, now that we have this crazy looking stem, we're gonna fix it up and make it look a little bit better. So what I want to do is start to kind of twist these and add hot glue where I want them to be connected. Okay, so we have it roughly attached at this point, and obviously it's not looking exactly how we're going to leave it, but what we are going to do is cut it down to the length that we want now that it's on there and we can see the scale of things. All right, so this is what our stem is looking like at this point. It's kind of wild and organic looking. I'm really liking it. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna paint the whole stem in our Mod Podge. Once we have that on, before it dries, we're gonna sprinkle cinnamon all over it. And that's gonna give a really natural texture to it. All right, so we have our Mod Podge and a little brush here. Honestly, you could use a bigger brush if you wanted. This is just what I had handy. So we're gonna sprinkle it on our stem. It doesn't need to be like 100% coated. You wanna cover as much of the stem as you can. If it's a little bit patchy, it's okay, because that will just kind of give it a more natural color pigment. So it'll just look like it has some of these natural colors coming through from the sisal rope, and then also some darker colors from the cinnamon. So now that we have it all coated, we're gonna take our cinnamon, and this is just the one that I had at home, but any cinnamon works. It doesn't need to be good cinnamon. It can be like dollar store, whatever you have. We're gonna take that and we're gonna sprinkle it all over our stem. Here we are, we have it sprinkled all over, and we're gonna let this dry like this. And then once it's completely dry, we're gonna come back and brush off the excess cinnamon and add one more coat of Mod Podge over the top, and then let that dry, and these will be all done. All right, so these are our pumpkins. I brushed off the extra cinnamon and then added another coat of Mod Podge and let that dry. So the stem is totally done, and it's actually really, really strong now that it has 2 coats of Mod Podge on it. So that is another benefit to doing the stems this way, is it is very secure now. The last step that we're going to do for these pumpkins is adding some moss. The way that I plan to do the moss is to kind of have it go in these little pumpkin creases just part of the way down, so that it kind of looks like it grew naturally from the stem, like leafy. But you could do it a lot of ways. I mean, you could have it coming up from the bottom like it's sitting in some leafy greenery. You could have it going up the stem or just all over the pumpkin, whatever you wanted to do. So we're going to take our hot glue gun, and I'm going to start by just putting a little bit at the top in the crease of the pumpkin. And then I'm going to take a tiny bit like this of our moss and start to try to like wedge it in there. So I really want it to be like that, like growing inside of the little creases. And I'm gonna start with less, and then we can always build up the moss if we want more later on, but you can't really take it back once you put it on. Here's our first one with the moss. I really love how it turned out. I think it's super pretty and like very fall. Loving these. I think they're really great. All right, so our 2 pumpkins are now finally dry. So we are going to remove them from the plastic casing, and then they'll be ready for us to put out to decorate with. So to do this, all you have to do is just cut the casing off. So we're gonna slowly chip away at this so that we don't accidentally cut some of the pumpkin inside. Alright, so I ended up switching to a kitchen knife because I couldn't find my X-Acto knife and it just was easier. But we got it off. Sorry, it is like pouring. And these guys are quite heavy, but that's what it looks like. So it has a perfect little indent so we can put a candle or something like that inside to light it up. And it has our jack-o'-lantern face. Perfect. We'll undo our other one and then we can set them out with some candles. Alright, well that wraps up our video for this week. I hope that you guys enjoyed making the concrete pumpkins with me. I think they turned out really cool, and I love how they add to our front porch decor. I think that they are really eye-catching and add a lot to our entryway. So I'm super excited with how everything turned out, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it all come together as we add in the pieces that we're going to be making and the pumpkins that we get in the next couple of weeks. I think it's gonna look really great. If you made concrete pumpkins as well, then please leave a comment. Let me know how yours turned out. I would love to hear about it. If you enjoyed the video and seeing how to make some new fall DIY for your home, then don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can see more videos like this. I put out new videos every Sunday. We're going to be doing a few more in our fall porch decor series, as well as some interior fall decor that we're going to be doing. And then we're going to start transitioning into the winter holidays. So stick around, you don't want to miss it. I'll see you guys next week.